Just pulled into the winter pasture here using an entrance that I don't normally use, but the reason that I'm coming in on the levee is because I haven't looked at this fence on the other side of the levee in a while, and even though all the cows are here and accounted for, it's not a bad idea to keep an eye on this one. And not only will I be checking this fence out, but I've also learned that it is smart to every so often, if you see anything that looks at all suspicious, to walk down there and see if there are any fresh tracks or cow manure or any signs that cattle have been on the wrong side of the fence. What can happen, and what has happened, is that one figures out a way to go through, and they'll occasionally go over there and graze and come back and join the others, which is not a huge deal until the others see them doing that, and she basically teaches everybody to break through the fence, and then all of my cattle end up on the neighbor's property. It's happened before. If you've been with the channel for a while, you saw it. So we're gonna run this fence line, check on these cows. And today was pig harvesting day. I wanna talk a little bit about that and just give you guys an idea of what it took to raise all 10 pigs this year, both financially and from a labor standpoint. So if this is something you're considering doing, you kind of know what you're getting into. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. So right here is the kind of thing that I don't like to see, but I need to examine a little bit more closely. I don't know how well the GoPro will pick it up, but there's certainly a trail here. It's probably a deer trail, but you can see that this top wire is bent down a little bit, and I feel like a cow probably could get through here. I don't know if one has been getting through here, but that's what we're going to try to figure out right now. Looking at this top wire where it's bent down, there's a bit of white hair, which is most likely deer hair. So I think the deer have just been traveling through here, but that can also be problematic because the deer create a trail and cows naturally follow trails. So they could just lead a cow right here to this spot, and we could have problems. But let's see if we got tracks or manure or anything on the other side of the fence and figure out how big of a problem we got. Stay. Trail goes in here. I'm pretty confident that this is just a deer trail. I see deer tracks, but I don't see cow tracks, so I mean, I'm feeling pretty good that the cows have not made it out here yet. But that doesn't mean that they won't eventually. They just haven't yet. Belly and Callie are having separation anxiety, so we better get back with them. This would actually be a cool place to set up a trail camera. I bet we could see a lot of deer traveling through here. Okay, I'm back, you guys. All right, let's keep rolling. Oh, you don't want to run anymore? You tired? Okay. We're down here at the end of this fence line, and I can tell that the cattle have been grazing the backside of the levee plenty, which is fine. They have access to this. It's not a big deal. But I don't see any place where they're getting over. There are several deer trails going across this fence, but the first one that I showed you was probably the worst one as far as what condition the fence was in. The rest of these, I'm not too worried about. So we'll keep an eye on them. I know that they're here. And if we start having problems with cows breaking out, we can always hot wire this off. It's what we've done before. But for now, I think we're good. Water looks good. You guys are tired, huh? Some years we've brought cattle down here and this pond is all but dry, or sometimes it actually has been dry. This year, there's quite a bit of water in it, as you can see, which indicates that our water table is doing pretty good. If we get a lot of high water and a lot of rain, I've actually seen this pond get so full that it spills over the banks, which is hard to imagine when you're looking at it right now, but it can happen. If you thought I sort of glanced over checking the cattle, I guess in a way I kind of did. And the reason is that this time of year, there's not really a whole lot that you're looking at. It's too early to be looking for bags. It's definitely too early to be looking for calves. And really all that I'm looking at right now is just, is everybody here and are they all looking okay? Something like a cow with really poor body condition or a cow that's way off by herself might indicate a problem. If I see everybody is accounted for and moving together, that tells me everything's good. Beyond that, I'm just checking on feed, what they've got available to them, and if they're pushing on fences. Of course, in a couple of months, this will all change. We will be looking for calves. We will be looking for the cows bagging up. We'll probably have more feed than the cows can eat, and we'll probably be thinking about bringing the chopper out here to mow some of these thistles down. Now they're all wet, so they need to run some more. Back here at the ranch now, checking on these cows, and I gotta say, since taking the calves to the sale and since upping the daily ration for the cows, it is awfully quiet around here. Each one of these 4-foot round bales weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 pounds, maybe a little bit more in some cases, and we're feeding 20 head out here in this corral, which means that each one is getting 25 pounds per day. If you live where the weather is much more harsh than it is here, 25 pounds a day is probably not enough for you. But here where we are at, 25 pounds seems to be more than enough, because you can see the amount of hay that they've got left in the feeder here. They're due to get new bales tomorrow, so they've still got to finish all this, and it's getting towards the afternoon, so I'm not sure how much of this will be left in the morning, but they're definitely getting their fill. The calves here in the little field are getting 1 bale every 3 days, and if you divide it out and do the math, that's about 13 pounds per head per day. This seems to be a pretty good amount for the calves that we've got here. They kind of tell you if it's not enough, and I can monitor that by how quickly they empty that feeder. This seems to be about as much as they can eat, or about as much as they want to eat at least. And I think that as they get bigger, this is going to change. They're going to want more as they grow. And when that happens, we'll accommodate it. But for now, this seems to be working good. As I mentioned before, today was pig harvest day, and as I stand out here in the pig pen and look around at things, it's awfully quiet. Today I want to talk about the time to raise, how we fed the pigs, what we spent, what it cost us to get these pigs up to harvest weight, because I don't think I've ever actually done a video like this before. We brought this group of pigs home about 6.5 months ago. Some people will tell you you can finish pigs in 6 or maybe even less than that, and maybe you can, but without totally breaking your bank on feed, I figure that 6.5 to 7 months is really a much safer bet. We bought our 10 pigs for 80 bucks a piece, so right off the bat, before we even got the pigs home, we were in it for $800. The biggest cost associated with raising any type of livestock is feed. That is oftentimes 80% or more of the cost that it takes to raise an animal. Pigs are no different. In fact, they might be on the higher end of the spectrum, because unlike cattle that derive a lot of their diet from grass that they can graze, pigs essentially survive on food that you provide for them and you give to them. I've been lucky enough the last couple of years to be able to buy bulk wheat to feed my pigs, but in addition to that, I also have to buy soybean meal, because during the first 2.5 to 3 months of their life, I like to give them a diet that's a little bit higher in protein than what they will get towards the end. The nice thing about wheat is that it is naturally higher in protein than other grains such as corn or rice, coming in at around 10%, whereas corn or rice I think are somewhere around 6 to 7% protein. This means that you don't have to supplement as much additional protein with wheat as you do with the other grain, but you do have to supplement some. This is most commonly done with soybean meal, which is very high in protein at like 44 to 46%. You can use soybean meal cut with the wheat to achieve whatever percentage protein ration you want to be giving the animals. In my case, 20 to 22% for these young pigs. To feed these 10 pigs for the 6.5 months that I had them, I bought 10,000 pounds of wheat, or 5 tons of wheat, or some number of bushels of wheat. And in addition to the wheat, I purchased about 20 50-pound bags of soybean meal. The wheat I was able to get directly out of the harvester, out of the field, for $1,500, and the soybean meal was, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of $21 per bag, which is $420. So if you're keeping track, we're $800 for pigs, $1,500 for wheat, and $420 for soybean meal. Wheat and soybean meal are going to provide the pigs with most of what they need, but they still need some type of mineral in their diet, and I give them this by feeding them Redmond SR65. I think this batch of pigs used 2 bags of that, and they are about $10 a bag, so let's add another $20 to our total. We're now $2,740 into this, or $274 per pig. And while $274 might sound like a lot, the good news is that those are all the costs that I incurred to get the pigs to harvest weight. I'm not counting things like the electric fence, the housing, or the shelter, or any of these sort of permanent modifications, because I don't think it paints a very accurate picture to factor those costs in over a single year of raising animals. When these things, when you invest money into that, you will divide that cost over multiple years of raising animals. So for the purposes of this discussion, I'm leaving that stuff out. So $2,740, and 6.5 months later, we find ourselves on harvest day. And yes, you guessed it, there are plenty of costs associated with this as well. In my region of the country, the way that this is done is we have what's called a ranch butcher come out to my place, and he will do exactly that. He will dispatch the animal and basically break it down into halves, where he can then take it to the cut and wrap butcher, who in turn cuts the halves down into retail cuts, wraps them, and prepares them to be sold. It is kind of a neat way of doing things, but as you might assume, each one of these steps needs to get paid. The ranch butcher charges $160 per pig to do his service. So for all 10 pigs, that costs $1,600. The cut and wrap fee varies a bit because that is charged per pound rather than per head. So for the sake of this discussion, we'll say it's around $400 to $500 per head. To calculate, we'll just say $450. 450 times 10 animals is $4,500. So when we add all of these numbers up, in order to purchase, raise, harvest, cut and wrap these 10 pigs, get them all ready to go into the freezer, costs a total of $8,840. Divide that by 10 is $884 per pig. Now, it should go without saying that depending on where you are in the country, how you do things, costs are going to vary place to place, person to person. But for me, this is what I was looking at this year. It's important to figure all these things out and know what all these numbers are, because you have to know what your break-even cost is per animal so that you can base your sale price off of that. Next thing I got to figure out is how much it costs me to get a dozen eggs. I guess it's not as much when they're laying good. I guess that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.